A tokenized supercycle may be in the wings, and of course, one of the leaders of that could be Binance. So today it's going to be a good one. We'll have an interview for you. Before we get started, I want to, of course, thank our sponsor, and that is iTrust Capital, where you guys can get into crypto IRAs. Very easy to get into it in terms of a setup. Whether you have an existing IRA, you want to start one from scratch, you guys can go over to iTrust and their new website update, one account, unlimited possibilities. And of course, this goes for cryptocurrency, stocks, gold, and silver, all available. And you can get a $100 funding reward just to get started, so get going. We've got Richard Tang, who is the co-CEO over at Binance, coming in on the show today. How are you, Richard?
Thanks for having me on the show, Paul.
Excellent. So I want to kind of hit off with a few news items that hit. One of them, of course, was BNB Chain is now joining MasterCard's crypto partner program. This is going to be a big deal. MasterCard very active in the space and continuing to expand their digital asset plan, including on and off ramps. Can you talk to me a little bit about what's happening here?
Well, so, as with our space, right, we want to make sure that the journey is as smooth, as integrated as possible for all the users globally. And, things like fiat on off ramp, things like card providers are extremely critical. Users want all these products, and we are here to really support our users on that front, right? Today, Binance has more than 300 million users globally spanning the globe. Our goal is to reach 3 billion users, and we are building a financial super app on that front. So people know us initially as a crypto platform. Yeah. But today, we offer a consolidated platform for trading, for payments, for savings, and for access to global markets and much more than that. So this part of that journey, where user doesn't want fragmented financial services, they want integrated services, and that's part of our goal to provide that to them.
Well, kind of an all-in-one. This is something that we're seeing from the stateside competitors you have, including Coinbase, Robinhood, obviously doing it very actively. You guys, though, are kind of going in to become the liquidity hub beyond crypto, because now you're getting into obviously RWA per volume, which is absolutely exploding. And when you look at just the growth that you've had here, I'll go to some of the guys who are listening on the audio podcast. Binance's Bitcoin perp liquidity, 1% of mid-price, 536 million in 2025. Now tokenized RWAs grew from around 5.5 billion in 25 to 25 billion here in mid-26, so not even a year in. And also the RWA perp volume jumped from 0.23 billion now to 347 billion. So these are big moves. When you look at this along with what's happening globally, how big is this market overall? Where do you think this is heading?
Well, I think we're just at the beginning, right? So, if you look at our TradFi products, our TradFi perpetuals, we just started to introduce them at the beginning of the year. Initially, it was just on commodities, and then subsequently, we rolled them out on things like US stocks. And we started then to introduce pre-IPO perpetuals, right? So trading the likes of SpaceX, Anthropic, etc. And, the beauty of it is, like, unlike many other platforms, unlike many other exchanges that only trade 8 hours a day, that have huge liquidity risk. If you think about it, they only trade 1/3 of the day, weekend, they're not trading holidays, they're not trading. And, but news cycle happens all the time, geopolitical risk, earnings, results, etc. But people have no access to market in those timing. They can't take positions, they can't hedge their positions, they can't close off, they can't, do different structuring. And those impose huge risk for any investors and any traders, especially institutions and corporates, as well as retail. So our product offers them a totally different experience. We're open on a 24/7 basis, that the trading doesn't stop. And there's huge trading, and people have the perception that, for example, US stocks outside US trading hours, you're going to see a huge drop-off in terms of trading volume. That's not true, actually. So things like B stock, for our tokenized US securities that trade 24/7, and users take them off the can take them off the platform to their own wallet, deploy them in DeFi, etc. There are significant tradings, right, on those, even off US hours and during weekends, right? So we are very encouraged, but I think we are just at the beginning, and we are really that space, right? So if you look at the volumes and you look at the market share of ours on that front, people go to the deepest liquidity market and we
Exactly.
represent that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we
and I
will
think
continue to
Yeah,
a
and I
lot of
think
products on that.
traditional investors are kind of going to this direction as well. They're starting to shift into the perp market quite a bit. We see this just in our own audience in terms of the activity in these perp markets and what the potential is for sure. So I would agree with you. Very beginning. Let me ask you this, Richard. When you look at what's going on in DC and with the Clarity Act, here recently, there has been a lot of signaling from the CFTC and the SEC saying, listen, we're going to get this done regardless. Since that narrative that has been painted out, we've seen a slow decline in the possible passage of this Clarity Act going through. Here's my question to you. How important is this to Binance doing something here in the US?
Well, I would say that on a global basis, at any point in time, wherever there's clarity on legislation and regulation, is always a boost to the marketplace, right? So if you look at what the Genius Act did to stablecoin in the States and beyond, once the US passed, Genius Act, really the stablecoin growth continued to take off in a big way, right? So people are much more willing to deploy, much more willing to invest. You see the major financial institutions all trying to adopt stablecoin, offering it as a product, working with partners on that front, payment services provider. And that goes beyond the US because the US is such a big marketplace. It's the biggest capital market in the world, largest GDP. It has outsized influence on the rest of the world, right? So then global regulators, policymakers are forced to sit up and take notice, right? So a big spillover effect globally, anytime that happens, we as we are the largest player in crypto, and we are growing very rapidly in the TradFi space on that front. We will benefit on that. Right? Same, I think, will come from Clarity Act. We hope for the passing of the Clarity Act. I think that will give a lot more clarity, a lot more certainty to industry players to deploy, to invest. And that also forced other regulators and policymakers around the world to sit up, reposition, rethink their own position. How could they maintain their own competitive advantage vis-a-vis the US, which is now such a big proponent of crypto, to keep their own positioning on that front. So we do hope for the passing of that. It will have spillover effects all over the world, and it will have positive impact on industry, and ultimately we will benefit.
Does this mean that Binance would have a bigger presence in the US if Clarity goes through, or even if Clarity doesn't? Can you give me kind of an estimate of what your strategy might be here?
Well, our focus at this point in time is to continue to grow all our product suites to make it even better experience for our users, including rolling out AI products on that front. Our user numbers continue to grow exponentially. Our product suites and trading volume continue to see healthy growth, especially in new products such as TradFi products. So we are focusing on that. On the US, is always under consideration. We always keep it in close review. There's going to be a lot of consideration on that front and a lot of discussion internally with the board members and shareholders on that front before we think, what is the right opportunity for that.
All right, well, we're going to be seeing some big changes, I think, happening here in the next 30 days. So we're going to watch closely with what your strategy will play out like here in the US. One thing that is for sure, B stocks is a big strategy. You guys, of course, added 18.7 million in market cap over the past 24 hours. Led the group out there in terms of growth by issuers, including over Securitized, Superstate, and Robinhood. So the biggest next three issuers in general. This is a big deal with B stocks. When you look at this and the potential for market makers and also just traders to really start to navigate this area of what you guys are doing, how much of your business do you think is going to rotate into B stocks?
Well, I think it's difficult to predict. We do hope all the new products that we offer, see the same type of robust demand. But by far this year, most of the product suite that we roll are very, very popular to users. Really, because if you think about it, global access remains a big problem, right? So B stocks offer users global access to US stocks. It trades on a 27 basis where available. And as I mentioned just now, demand that we are seeing is global. 73% of the demand actually come from emerging markets. And in many of those jurisdictions, users have no access to US brokerage account.
Yeah.
And we become the de facto access for them to access all these products, not only traded stocks, but pre-IPO space. And you can continue to see the exponential growth of these stocks. The round-the-clock access really is something that they wish to see, and also the ease in which you can transfer on-chain, off-chain. Those are very important, right? So they can do it, take it off the platform, deploy it into their own wallet, deploy into DeFi. It's not a tokenized stock sitting in isolation.
Yeah.
So we are seeing much more advantage to something like a B stocks compared to traditional stocks. And you can combine the crypto native opportunity with stock link exposure on that front to do lending, your opportunities. API can range from between 5% to as high as 200%, depending on the DeFi strategy. And no traditional brokerages offer anything close to that front. So we're going to see a lot of popularity around it.
Listen, I'm looking at the Delphi Digital research on this in terms of the state of tokenized stocks. Binance, TradFi, Perps right now, this is from the 1st of July to the 31st, basically 1 month, 439 billion in terms of volume. When you look at that kind of market potential, in 24 months, what do you think this number is in terms of tokenized stocks? In 24 months?
Well, we want it to be many times that. Well, you never know, right? Because the pace of growth has been very exponential, right? And we continue to enhance the product. Based on user feedback, based on what we see on trends, we are going beyond US stocks on that front to many other marketplaces. And the type of products where we offer, we are going to introduce much more product suite across different asset class on that front. So it's going to grow quite exponentially from now on. If you look at the volume just month on month, it continues to explode on that front. So we are very bullish on that, and we are capturing a very good market size on that front.
Well, I'm looking at last in, but scaling very fast. This is just in comparison to Ondo, and seeing this growth and the trajectory here. This will be interesting to watch, I think, for growth down the road. And if you look at just RWA, tokenized stocks in general, Ondo's still leading, but B stocks now coming in number 3. So, and very close to overtaking. Yeah, number 2. Number 2. Okay, we'll get to.
Based on the figures I have, is number 2.
Yeah, you got it at number 2. I'm going to say we'll give it the benefit of the doubt. It's very close to number 2 right now. So
it's okay.
But nice.
Number 2, number 3 doesn't matter. But if you look at the trajectory, it's growing very, very fast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The trajectory is unbelievable. For sure.
Point, right? That's
Looking at chains, BNB also making a major move here, sliding over Solana for RWA activity. And I think, again, this gets into the point you just made earlier, which is the potential here of going into all of these other markets outside the United States. I guess at some point, this would hyper grow if we actually saw growth here in the US. So this is going to get very competitive, I think, very quickly. So I hope you guys are prepared.
Well, it's actually giving users much more access, much more opportunity, much lower fees, and greater access to the deepest liquidity pool in the world. And as you know, right, as with any traders and any investors, when you have access to the deepest liquidity pool, the bid-ask spread comes down drastically. You save substantially over time. All investors, all institutions want that, right? So hopefully we have the opportunity to do that going forward.
I'm going to play a clip for you. This clip is in reference to the exponential growth that we have seen around Hyperliquid. And then I want to get your opinion on this. So let's take a look.
I mean, I cannot imagine or describe the importance of this. Bringing that onshore would be the first DeFi platform that be regulated onshore by the CFTC. That lays the footprint for every other DeFi platform that comes in from offshore. So, Scarlett, the the pitched battle we are seeing between incumbent players in capital markets against these upstarts, new players that have come in, whether it's folks that have been around for 10 years like Coinbase, but also the upstarts like Hyperliquid. I mean, that has got to be the market structure story for 2026.
All right, so the market structure story for 2026, you've heard Selig talk about this, the chairman of the CFTC, trying to onshore Hyperliquid. This would be the kind of explosion or maybe event that could really open these markets up, specifically around Perps. How much of an impact do you think that has overall?
Well, we're not quite sure. I mean, if you look at the news coming out, CME market price went down that day, CBOE went down that day. So it's quite massive, right? So there's a lot of speculation around it. We look at it with interest, and there's also a lot of speculation in the marketplace to see whether, is it going KYC less? And how are we going to manage those risks, right? So, is at this point in time, there's not enough information for us to go on. Would that become the new form going forward, where platforms can don't need to do KYC, KYB on the customers, because then you have huge impact across the entire financial services. But at this point in time, it's just speculation. But we look at it with huge interest. There's massive speculation what's going on, and what's the structure and form you'll take is something that everybody is going to study very closely, because it's going to have massive impact, not only on the industry but on a lot of traditional players. They will be the most impacted.
Well, exactly, and I think the key here is what does that mean? Because we may still see unbelievable growth even if there is a KYC or KYB analysis side of this. Would Binance seek some sort of U.S. approval, or at least a compliant perp trading platform right now through a separate registered entity, possibly as a strategy coming into the U.S.?
Well, we always explore in different parts of the world what's the best way for entrance, right? So we are not going to disclose for specific marketplace.
I understand.
But sure, we are always deliberating what's the best strategy for us to continue to expand on global footprint.
I want to go to the Tether audit. And when you look at this, Tether, of course, passes its first ever audit. This is with KPMG. So that's a big deal. The U.S. is all behind this now. It appears that we've got U.S. involvement when you look at Cantor Fitzgerald's positioning with Tether. And overall, when you see Tether globally, which obviously is a huge part of the crypto community, how do you think this affects not only Binance, but in general, broader crypto globally with this audit coming in?
It's a big positive, right? So anytime we can continue to instill trust, build trust, give transparency, clarity to the marketplace, all those things by any players within crypto is a big positive to our industry, right? So for instance, there are a lot of things that Binance do that introduce transparency on before the rest does it. So things like proof of reserve, we push it out, showing our users that assets are always back one-to-one basis, and we have been pushing regulators to say that that's a best practice to go. Not many global exchanges does that, but that's our move to really instill greater transparency, greater trust into the ecosystem. Anytime we can do that as industry players, as stakeholders, is a big positive for all of us.
Richard, I'm looking at Tether's positioning right now with gold, and you could look at USAT. You could also look at what we've seen with Paxos in terms of growth. Tokenized gold is a real thing now. Do you think we're at a position right now where tokenized gold versus Bitcoin adoption could start to shift, and we could see more and more players going into tokenized gold? Or do you think Bitcoin will still be the asset of choice?
Well, I mean, for people that have been in the industry long enough, I do think that all of us believe very strongly in Bitcoin on that front. I think tokenized gold is, in my view, a far superior option than holding physical gold. Because if you hold physical gold, custody fees, shipping fee if you want to hold the gold, there are many of those costs involved. Whereas tokenized gold is much more liquid, you can transact it, and do many other, structuring around it. So it's a superior form compared to physical gold, but I don't think it's a comparison to Bitcoin. They are totally different comparison. Yeah.
I like it. You guys have some big stuff happening. Blockchain coming. Yeah, coming in soon. Talk to me a little bit about what you're going to do there. Anything specific, or in terms of possible releases? Is there going to be a track there that we need to be paying attention to from the media side that's happening in November?
There's always interesting things. So do join us for Binance Blockchain Week, which we're going to hold in Bangkok towards the end of November. We have all the big global speakers joining us. We have developers, our community, builders, investors coming together. No, it's going to be fun-filled. It's going to be very insightful. We're going to make an announcement on that front. Not only ourselves, but I believe all the other important speakers joining us may use that platform to announce it. We are bringing it back to Asia this year. So it's continued to be a celebration of how far crypto has come, and in this more, not only in the crypto space, but in terms of financial landscape.
Yeah, well, it's good to see it back in Asia, because I think that's you have so many developers and I think opportunities, especially correlated to Binance over there. So you're right. I think we may get some big releases there during that event. So we'll be watching it very closely. Richard Tang coming in from Binance. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.